All right, guys, welcome today. My name is Kyle Hallman, or better known as Soldier Cross/Cross online. I am your host of the CrossPaths podcast, and this is our second episode. Today I'm joined with my great friend, mentor, and coach, Paul Federici. Paul Federici is a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu black belt, social worker, and musician as well. And yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy our show today. Awesome. So, Paul, how's it going?
I'm good. It's 10:15 and I just finished mowing my lawn.
Actually,
Yeah,
your
well,
your neighbor's
it
kids
was
probably
like
hate you.
it was like 9:15. No, I'm terrible. I'm actually terrible at lawn maintenance. So when the urge strikes me, I have to just jump in and do it, or else God knows it could be another month before I get around to
You know,
doing
it's
it.
funny because I feel that too. I'm so lazy with it, and we've had such a dry summer, so I feel like I have to actually
Yeah.
water it now. Like it
Oh
was
no, I
growing at
don't
the
do that.
beginning near the end of spring because we were getting a ton of rain, but then we've been had like a super dry last couple months where it's like very periodically rained. So yeah, it's just
No,
yeah.
my lawn is essentially giant yellow patches and then big overgrown spots of weeds.
Oh
So
no,
that's basically what my lawn.
that
But when you
sounds
cut it
exactly
all,
like
it looks
mine.
good. But
Yeah,
yeah, my
that's
neighbor's
usually how it
hate me for
goes.
that.
I
My
hate
neighbors
mowing
hate
the
me.
lawn.
Yeah.
It's
But
such an
I'm
annoying task.
otherwise oh, it's the worst.
Yeah,
But otherwise I'm doing pretty well, man.
yeah,
Yeah, just another day down almost in
yeah.
a new reality. So
What have you been
thanks
up
for
to?
having me on. It's
Oh,
it's it's very cool to it's nice to chat with people, whether
yes,
it's
absolutely.
virtually or not, because it's just me and my dog here, so it can get a little isolated after a while.
Well, I
So
think one of the biggest reoccurring trends in conversation over the time of quarantine, I guess it's what, 4 months now? Yeah, March, June, March, April, May, June, July.
yeah,
Yeah, about 4 months or so is like people's mental health and how to stay connected and stuff. And I was
absolutely.
mentioned my last episode with my buddy Christian. We're talking about my one buddy who just lives with his cat, and I'm like, shit, yeah, it gets fucking lonely.
It absolutely can. And I think, I'm not somebody that has ever had an issue with being solitary. Like, I kind of prefer it, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
Like, I like having my own thing going on, but there's a limit, right?
of
Like,
course.
obviously, and for me, jujitsu was always such a big part
Hmm.
of that
Yeah,
socialization, and that. So to have that piece removed, like too much isolation, I always think is a bad thing. So, yeah, I mean, I just put out a video
hmm,
talking about mental health stuff because I don't think we talk enough about it generally. Like especially now, I feel like
especially
it's like
men.
a silent epidemic in a
Yeah.
lot of ways.
Oh,
Men,
absolutely.
yeah, men tend to be, especially in our kind of
Hmm.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu and the martial arts. I
Yeah.
do feel like it draws more of a alpha kind of personality, so
Yeah.
they're less inclined to usually talk about it. So
Yeah, it's something that I think people have to like be more open up with.
yeah,
We're here to help each other. People are here to, grow and help each other develop. Now, obviously, there's something to be said about being able to handle your shit and like, not have to like, wear all your emotions on your sleeve, but it's also very normal to struggle with stuff. And if you're
yeah,
not able to, be vulnerable at times and be able to share stuff, you're not really ever going to grow in your relationships deeper with other people. To be vulnerable with yourself is to let someone else also be vulnerable with you. And if they see
yeah.
that, that vulnerability in yourself, they're more likely to open up, and then you grow your relationships deeper and stuff. But it's definitely a stigma, and yeah, I think mental health is something that people are starting to look more and more at right now. I think if there's any positive that might come out of this quarantine and all that stuff, is that people are more willing to talk about mental health.
Yeah, I mean that would sort of be my hope, because I think, like you said, I think it's essential, and I've always felt that that stigma is really uncalled for in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
and a lot of the way we're moving, sort of socially, kind of breaking down these sort of
Yeah.
gender stereotypes or whatnot.
Hmm.
I think people need to talk about it more
Hmm.
because, especially as things, a lot of us don't even realize it, but a lot of the activities that we do,
Hmm.
those are our coping mechanisms, and
Of
people
course.
don't even necessarily look at them like that. But those are the things that help you. And sometimes when those get taken away, you really start to see a lot of the mental health issues sort of bubble to the surface. So
Yeah.
I would hope that this would be a good time for people to talk about it, but I think there's still a lot of work that needs to be done,
Yeah.
especially in certain populations for talking about it.
I think Western
So,
culture in general and stuff is like there's definitely like a little bit of a standoffish attitude still,
yeah,
with men and women, but I think mostly men not willing to talk about their stuff. And it's so deeply important because like right now you said like a lot of our hobbies are taken away, right? Like we haven't been able to do jiu-jitsu, and for a
Right.
lot of us, like yourself, like you just said, it's your primary mode of connecting with people. Like that's, for some
Yeah.
people who might like work at home or work in an office where they might not be close to their coworkers, like this is where you connect with some friends and like-minded folk, and get together and roll around on a sweaty mat and stuff and try to strangle each other. But
Yeah.
there's something to be said about the socialization. I've also found too, like I've had so much less drive without it.
Yeah.
Like I felt like it was such like a it definitely gave me like a little bit of like that oomph, like
Sure.
you're like, "Oh, I don't want to go today," but you go anyway and you feel good after, and
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
have a good workout, and it's like a kind of a beat your chest kind of thing, makes you feel like, like
Yes.
manly and cool, but it does, right? And not having had that, it's interesting how quick and easy it is to get a little lazy and get a little comfortable. Not that we don't always need to rest sometimes, and how important it is to remember to like take a break at times. But now 4 months have gone by, and it's like, all right, I'm ready to go back to stuff. I was ready to go back to stuff after a couple weeks
Oh
already,
God,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, for me, it's tough because yeah, like I've been always been pretty open about the fact that I've had issues with mental illness over the
yeah,
course of my life, and like I lean on jujitsu pretty hard, to be honest with
yeah,
you. And I tend to be one of those people that is sort of all or nothing. I get a lot of tunnel vision on stuff, and
yeah. Of course.
so for me to have it taken away when it was pretty much something I was doing most of my time, it's been really difficult,
Of course.
as to have that taken away. Because
Yeah,
I think everybody, we all sort of need like a sense of purpose and a goal and striving towards something.
yeah,
And it usually is great to have a group of people to do that with, because it sort of holds you accountable a bit more. And
yeah,
when that sort of gets pulled from underneath you, you're right, people can get, you sort of feel like, well, what's the point? And so your daily structure is disrupted and your coping mechanisms are sort of taken away,
yeah.
and it's easy to fall into that sort of trap of complacency and laziness, to be honest with you, and then that never really leads to anything super productive. So
I'm a firm believer that people have to have a third place. People have like you have home, you have work,
yep.
and you have like a team. Like whether that be like a book club or a gym,
Yeah.
like a martial arts academy,
Yeah.
like or a dance studio, whatever the heck, right? It doesn't matter, like anything. But I believe that like things like that are what foster a proper sense of community. Like work certain workplaces do foster community. Like I'm a server bartender, right? So I
Right.
mean, you have like a community at work. It's all very social. People, you're laughing, you're running around, you're dealing with stressful scenarios together. But like an office building where you're in a cubicle, I can't imagine that there's a sense of community there, as
No.
much anyway. Maybe it's different. I don't know. I've never worked in an office, but something like us going to Parabellum or Atos or whatever, there's a deep sense of community, and that's what makes that place special. Obviously, the
Yeah.
fantastic coaches, great building, and all that stuff too. But it's really the people that you come there for, and it's like this is what these bonds that you form, and all these different people from different walks of life. It's fantastic, and that's what we're such social beings, and it's really strange to have like so much of that taken away. The first month of quarantine, I spoke about a little bit in my first podcast with my buddy, was a lot harder for me. It was very strange because I'm like all of a sudden you just have none of this connection that you're so used to getting, and it's such a stark difference even if you are an introvert.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think, it, like I said, for me, it's been one of those things that, it tends to bring out sort of the best in me in a lot of ways,
Hmm.
and to have those people and those interactions. And I think even just the thing that's so great about jujitsu is that, well, like you said, it brings a lot of different people together,
Yeah.
right? Different backgrounds, and especially in this climate, politically
Hmm.
and socially, I think that that's always a great thing.
Yeah, of course.
And then to have sort of a community where we're all sort of pushing and striving to get better with each other, I think it's super important. It
Yeah.
gives us that community feel, and I think there's so many benefits to having something like that. Like I see people that get into stuff like, I'm not into it. I'm not into CrossFit or anything like
Yeah.
that. But
I have a
for
buddy
me,
that
I can
is.
understand. Yeah, I can understand it because it's the same thing. It's like you're all pulling in the same direction.
Yeah.
There's a positive vibe there. There's good people, and I think sometimes we forget how important those things are in our lives. So
Of course.
it's been a pretty interesting social experiment, to say the least, to have this pandemic hit
Yeah,
and
the
kind of.
strangest social experiments all across the
Yeah,
world,
yeah,
except
yeah,
the places in
exactly.
the States that are just YOLOing it, like good old
Yeah, they're
Florida.
basically they're,
Just
they're just kind of
nuts.
like whatever
Just
happens.
nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But you've been busy though. We've had a little bit. I wouldn't say trouble scheduling, but we've definitely had to like work a little bit to find some time where we could both do
Sure.
this. You've been keeping busy. You got like your YouTube channel going. You started a podcast. You're doing your instructionals and stuff with jiu-jitsu on Instagram.
Yeah.
You've been keeping yourself pretty preoccupied, eh?
Well, yeah, I feel like it was kind of out of necessity, to be honest with you, because like I said, you know, suddenly having this big hole kind of in my life where jujitsu is filling it, it's easy for me as somebody that has a lot of problems with depression. Like it's really easy for me to slide into a very dark place very easily.
Yeah.
And I found that that was happening very quickly early on with the lockdown because at first I was in kind of like denial. I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, how can we possibly do this? And I
Yeah.
thought, so, it started kind of as just like I wanted to be somewhat productive for my gym. And so I filmed a bunch of techniques with a friend of mine just around the time the pandemic started. And I
Yeah.
thought, well, I'll give PJ, who's my instructor at Atos in Hamilton, I said, I'll make, let's just make a video for him every week. Like, I don't know, let's keep people engaged. And then it just kept building on that. And I thought, I would ask people on Instagram, like, is there anything more you want to see? And people would say, we'll do some longer videos with more talking. And I thought, well, I can't really do that because I don't have the freedom to just,
Yeah.
I can't just pop in somewhere and record stuff. So
Base no.
then I started doing voiceovers, and then I started thinking like do some Q&As, and then those turned into, you put me in front of a microphone, I won't shut up because I'm Italian and we rant.
That's okay.
So I thought,
Makes my
I
job
thought,
makes my job easier here.
well, I had, a lot of my friends were doing kind of like Instagram live stuff,
Yeah.
which is awesome. You can't record. I don't think you can record it,
I
or
don't
if you
think
can, it's
Instagram Live is recorded. A lot of streaming things
yeah,
are, but Instagram Live I don't believe is. There's Instagram TV, which is different, but that's not live.
yeah, which is kind of a shame because like sometimes you only get it, especially if you're not like some big celebrity, you're only going to get a few people. So I thought, why not do like some videos of them, and then those started to get a lot better reaction, and then
Hmm.
it occurred to me like, well, why not make a lot of them are like 30 minutes, so it's not like a
Yeah.
5-minute response.
Yeah.
And so I just recently decided to start, I guess, a podcast, quote unquote, in the sense that I've taken the audio versions of the Q&As and turned them into things that you can download
Yeah.
with the intention of eventually doing, guest stuff and
Yeah.
and that sort of thing. But it's actually been super positive. Like one of the videos that I did do early on was talking about how to stay motivated and engaged during the lockdown.
Yeah.
And the first thing I said is, find a new, develop a new skill and or find a new project,
Yeah.
right? And so for me, these little videos have given me a way to stay connected with jujitsu, at least mentally.
Yes.
And it's given me a sense of, even if like, it's not like I have a ton of followers or anything, but just the momentum of like, okay, when I'm really bummed out, it's like, okay, we'll just keep making another video every week, just
Yeah.
keep doing it. And to be honest, it's really helped the weeks kind of go by,
Yeah.
And so I've enjoyed it. I'm grateful for people that have reached out to ask me questions, because as much as I'm trying to give some of my perspective and opinions, like it's helping me tremendously because it's keeping me, I'm sitting there thinking about how I'm going to respond, and I'm writing out ideas, and then I'm recording it, and
Yeah.
it's all time consuming. I mean, any content creation isn't just the recording. It's one piece, but oh well, you don't do editing yet.
I'm
You're just
working on it.
you're like the one take wonder over here. You're just so polished
I
that
wish.
it's
My
just one take and you're good.
Well, that's the issue with Twitch though, is like I'm on there for a few hours, but trying to stay on and like entertaining for a couple hours is exhausting, especially if you don't
The,
have a game plan.
the best is you asked me once, you were like, hey, I'm on Twitch, you should come check it out. And I'm like 41. And I was kind of like,
What the
I've
fuck
heard
is
about
Twitch?
this. I've heard about Twitch,
Uh,
but so I thought it was kind of funny. So
yeah.
I got to check it out one time. I don't
That's
know how
okay.
to use it still.
It's just
I'm
an
not
app like
ducking you.
anything
I'm
else.
not
No, it's
ducking
all
you.
good. It's just an app like anything else. I talked to my other
Right.
buddy a little bit about it too, but that was for me, like you were saying, um, you're trying to find another hobby. before I get into that though, like it's
Yeah.
interesting that there was this narrative there where it's like people were saying it's like, if you said you wanted to do this before and now you have all this time, here's the time
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
On the inverse though, it's also like this is also a very strange scenario. Maybe you're thinking
Oh
about your
God. Yeah.
well-being, and I think that's an important reminder too, because like maybe you're really scared and panicky, and you're like worried about the illness. So I think that type of thing is putting both sides of the thing, and it is reminding people like, hey, mental health is a thing, and yes, do things. You have this time now. You can do all this stuff, but your mental health is important too, and it's okay if you're scared, and it's okay if you're worried. For me though, like I said, after the first couple weeks, I was starting to like feel like I was angry a little bit. Like I was quick to like
Oh
I was just
yeah.
getting frustrated because I'm so used to being at work and socializing and laughing and making my tables laugh and having a good time, and then I'm like, well, shit, this sucks. I'm just sitting inside with my cats and family,
Yeah.
who I love and very much. But like, it's not, you're not getting out and stuff. I didn't see my
Right.
girlfriend face to face, and it was just really weird.
What
So
state or what's the state of the status for you right now? Like, are you still off work, or are you able to do some sort of
I'm
like
restaurants are patio
socialization?
now. Yeah.
Patio. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I have to wear a mask on the patio. So with
Yeah.
the July heat, like it's
Just with
32 degrees, and I got this black mask on.
that
All
Wolverine beard coming out the bottom
oh,
of
it's
it.
I trimmed it down. And it's still bad, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to get rid of the whole thing because it's like you
Are you
like to.
supposed to? Like, do they
No, no, no.
want
They
you to
don't. They
shave
don't
your
keep.
beard? Okay.
No,
Okay.
no. They just you have to wear the mask.
Yeah.
So I have to
Yeah.
wear
Yeah.
that at the work on the patio and like still if I'm walking around in the building inside. But
Is it mandatory where you are? Are you in Burlington? Because I'm out in Niagara more.
it's as far as I know, it's mandatory if you're working
Yeah.
anywhere. Like for most places,
Okay. I
Oakville,
wasn't sure. Yeah.
Oakville, I think, voted against it initially, but they're re-meeting, or they did re-meet to like re-vote on it, so that it is going to
Right.
become mandatory again indoors and stuff. I always find it a little. I personally find it a little funny that people wear them like outside or like driving in their cars. I'm like, this seems a little silly, but like,
Yeah.
I have no personal problem with having to wear one to go to work. I'm just happy to be back at work a little bit,
Yeah.
doing some
Absolutely.
stuff. It's good to be doing something kind of productive again and having like some semblance of a schedule. So if my work is like you have to wear them out, I'm not going to argue with it. And if a building says, "Hey, you have to wear this to come in," I'm like, "That's fine. It doesn't
Yeah.
personally bother me. I hope we don't have to wear them for too long because I miss like I like looking at people's faces. You smile at people and stuff. It's nice. It's
Yeah.
a way to
It's a little unusual for
it's weird.
sure.
I miss handshakes. It's
I
a
know.
weird thing. Like, I know people are like talking about like new normal and all that. I'm like, I don't want this to be the normal forever. Like, I'm supportive of it. I think it's like, I'm not like anti-masker or whatever the heck, but I'm like,
Right.
I don't want this to be forever. I don't like this. I guess nobody does, but I don't know. I understand why some people are skeptical about very quickly accepting it and worrying about how long this type of thing could last, but it's also like, well, there's no textbook and stuff to check about coronavirus. We're trying to, we're in pretty uncharted territory. So I don't know. I'm glad to be back at work though. And yeah, that's
Yeah.
why I started streaming initially, was because like, you were asking me. I started doing it because I needed a hobby. And then it being I was playing games anyway, so I might as well try to like see if anyone wants to watch me play video games. It's been
Right.
fun.
Yeah. Well, it's yeah. I mean, the mask thing seems to be pretty contentious. It's not as bad in Canada, but
The
I have
States is very
I have
divisive
some
on it.
friends in the States, and even there's a guy that I follow from the Canadian Jiu Jitsu scene, Stefan Kesting,
Yes.
and he's an old school. Like he grapplearts.com. He's got a ton of puts out a ton of content. He's been doing
Yeah.
jujitsu and martial arts for like 40 years, and he's become quite a lightning rod of I not even really controversy, but he's become sort of the target of a lot of anger, especially in the BJJ community, because he has a bachelor. I think he has a BA in biology and a master's
Yeah.
degree in biology,
Yeah.
and he's very he's very factual, but people are really coming after him because they feel like he's on the take or something, or he's
Oh,
been
he's telling people to wear
corrupted, or
masks and stuff.
well, he's just trying to. I mean, I think he was one of the first voices in the Canadian scene to say, look, like, this is jujitsu's probably the worst thing we could possibly be doing,
Yeah.
and he was very much like, we got to take this seriously. But there is a very big sentiment in all countries of it being something kind of politically designed and all that kind of stuff. So it's been interesting to watch him struggle because he's getting attacked, and all he's really trying to do is sort of
Yeah.
inform people about the
Well,
science.
some of the
Interesting.
more popular Instagram you of it like Instagram jiu-jitsu people, like not to name names, but like like Tom DeBlas and like Gordon
Oh,
Ryan and stuff to name it. It's like
yeah, I know
it's
what you're
like
talking about.
yeah,
Holy jeez,
but it's like yep,
it's
okay, we
super
need the.
controversy.
And it's like why do we need I mean, like, not to discredit someone just because their lifehood is doing a martial art, but I'm like, do I, are you legitimized to like give people advice on what they should be doing when there's a global pandemic going on? Should you be giving people political advice or this? I mean, obviously everyone has a platform and people can talk about what they want, but like, I don't know. It's just like,
Here's the piece that I find ironic, and here's well, a couple things. First is you have to understand, I think, for all of us, and I'm not like, I'm kind of in the middle on all this. I'm
yeah,
not like hardcore.
yeah, of course,
I understand all sides. Like, I
yeah,
understand
absolutely,
people that are like, fuck this, my life. We got to go back to normal, and I understand the people that are like,
hmm
we better hunker the fuck down until there's a vaccine. So I
yeah,
understand where everybody's coming from.
of
I'm not trying
course,
to pick a side, but it is a moving target, and I don't think people understand that. And that
yeah,
it's a 5 6 month old virus, and people are saying, well, the predictions here were wrong and the predictions here were wrong. But in honesty, they're doing the best they can with something that's constantly changing, right?
that's yeah,
It's not a virus that we're familiar with. So it makes sense that in 2 months or 3 months, we might have conflicting guidelines as to best practices,
yeah,
because what we've learned about the virus has changed. But my piece on the the BJJ people and is, you see Brazilian Jiu Jitsu people that always sell DVDs, right? Like
yes,
Gordon Ryan sells DVDs, Tom DeBlas sells DVDs, and I love those guys. I'm not
of
trying to
course,
take a
yeah,
shot at any of those guys. Like,
fantastic,
everybody's entitled. Everybody's entitled to their opinion. I follow Gordon Ryan. I like the guy. He's
yeah,
controversial,
absolutely,
but whatever. But they'll sell their DVDs saying, I've been doing this X number of years. I'm an expert. I'm a black belt. I'm world class, right? That's
yes.
part of the sales pitch. Buy my DVD
I already
because
know where this is
I'm
going, but
one
yes,
of the best in the right. I'm Gordon
uh,
Ryan. I'm the best in the world,
yes,
and you are. And
no
yet
doubt,
here you have Gordon Ryan who's saying, all this negative stuff about scientists who are the equivalent. You have people that have in the science world that they're the best in their field. They've
yes,
been doing this for 20 years. They're experts at this, but then we
yeah,
have people discrediting them, and it's kind of ironic to
no,
me,
fuck
right?
that,
Because
yeah,
so the equivalent argument I'm trying to make is that next time, if in my opinion, if Gordon Ryan sells a DVD, I should say that's bullshit because I YouTube this and that technique is horseshit or something.
basically, yeah. If you
That's
saw
kind of the
you saw a
equivalent argument,
competition where it like did not work because some guy
right?
was really bad at doing it,
Yeah, exactly. So we can all find items that can disagree with your opinion, but I just find that piece interesting,
of
And that's
course,
not to say that I understand that scientists have been wrong
yeah,
and
of
things
course,
change, but
absolutely,
the irony of people that are selling their product based on their level of expertise in jiu-jitsu are then the
yeah.
people that are criticizing the high level scientists on the other side.
It's
So
it's kind of
it's a mess.
hilarious.
It's a mess.
But I agree though. I think it's very important to try to see both sides. I think if you're the type of person that's saying, honestly, if you're against wearing a mask, just delete me off Facebook right now. Or if you're like, you're a bitch for wearing a mask. I think you're both kind of goofballs. I think
Yeah.
you're both kind of. I think it's just dangerous to have like something when your opinion is so entrenched in like a very like rigid stance. Obviously, if you're talking about something like like there's a lot of like the racial stuff going on right now, and I think that's like if you're like vehemently against Black Lives Matter, that's probably there's probably some underlying issues and stuff with racism and stuff that you might not have really
Right.
reflected on yourself. But I think when you're looking at something like this mask thing, um, and you're not willing to try to see both sides, because I understand why some people are like, they want it to go
Yeah.
back to normal. There's a lot of, not to speak of all the small businesses that have suffered and are suffering or that have closed. It's heartbreaking. It's really difficult. But like you said, this is uncharted territory, and I mentioned this too in the group the other day. I'm like, they don't exactly have a textbook they can check on coronavirus. And if most of the scientists are saying this, I'm
Yeah.
probably going to try to go along with it. I'm hopeful that we can go back to a semblance of normal soon, and that we don't have to wear masks forever. We can start handshaking new people and stuff as long as we're smart. I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, obviously, but I also really miss jiu-jitsu and I want to go back and roll.
Yeah.
But like my
Well,
life's
that's
not
the
getting it if
thing.
I don't. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, and I honestly, and it's so funny because I'm tend to be the contrarian with my friends who are super conservative about it. So I'm
Yeah,
I'm not some guy that's all for,
you play devil's advocate. I
hey,
get it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just yeah, because I think there's valid points on both sides.
Yeah.
And I can see like cuz for example, I feel really bad cuz I have friends that own gyms. Like we know, Parabellum
Yeah.
is a small business. My friend owns another Brazilian Jiu Jitsu school, and I see people online that are kind of saying, quit being selfish. We need to lock down. But these are also the people that aren't necessarily losing that much themselves. Like I've seen teachers make that argument,
Yeah.
we got to be conservative, but they're also still getting paid, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like people's opinions on this change based on how significantly their life is being affected by the policies and the lockdown. So,
Mhm.
I just think it's we're just in such a difficult situation. So I try to
It's
just I try to just listen to both sides, and to
mhm.
be honest, I find valid arguments on both,
It's been a
which isn't
fucking weird year,
great.
man. It has been a
Yeah.
fucking stupid year.
Oh,
Like just so many things that could go wrong have gone wrong, and it just seems like I'm waiting for aliens come the fall, man. It's got to be aliens or
okay.
something.
Like literally when Kobe died, I was done. I was like 2020 is like
It was
that. I
already
don't know
the
what that one
wildfires.
really
World War
rocked
Three
me.
almost started. Yeah, I
Well,
don't
the
follow
Kobe thing
basketball, but I know
rocked me
people that.
because well, it's just because I mean Kobe literally our birthdays are like a month apart. So like he's my age,
Yeah.
I watched him growing up playing,
Mm.
in the NBA. Watching him reminds me of my childhood more.
Yeah.
And like, some of these people just seem like invincible.
Yeah.
And that was just so tragic. And that was just literally like the
It's
tip of the
chaotic,
iceberg. But that one
and it was
really,
chaotic
yeah,
too. It was
that
so
one,
random.
oh my
It wasn't
God.
like old or
Yeah.
anything like that. He had no. It was just like helicopter crash. What the fuck?
But that's what I mean. It was just the youth. He just had retired and was just
Hmm.
starting to come into his own, kind of as like a figure outside of basketball. So,
Yeah, it's
but yeah,
heartbreaking.
it's been when you think about it, when you go back, there's just been like it's just been one thing after the other after the other. Like it's
It's
just been
strange, man. Like it's the saying that real life is stranger than fiction is it's so
oh
true because
yeah
like this year is proof of that. It's just one crazy thing after another. You know, what's Trump doing today? What's going on here? What's going on with the masks and stuff? It's just like it's strange. It's
let's
hilarious.
see. It is. And it's sad too because I think people have been like there's been so many scientists and people writing books about this kind of thing for forever, like
Yeah.
sounding the alarm, being like, we need to be ready, we need to be ready. That's what's interesting to me about people that are looking at it from like sort of a conspiracy point of view, is that
Mhm.
this isn't really a shock. Like this is people like scientists who spend their life on studying viruses. And I mean they've been saying like this something like this is bound to happen at some point.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable that we've had such a stretch where like none of us really think twice about any of this. Like it's if you think about it, it's almost more remarkable that we haven't had something like this
Oh
in
yeah,
the
there's no
last
textbook on
100
how we're
years.
supposed to cope during this. Like nobody knows. It's when people are like this. Maybe I personally don't think it's overstretching it, but like the term shared trauma. This is like not to say like I'm suffering
Yeah.
from PTSD, but like this is a very strange like semi traumatic experience that people are going through. Like, it's stressful. You're dealing with a totally new circumstance where you're apart from your loved ones, your elder loved ones who you can't go see. Like my grandma's health deteriorated massively through this, and
No,
that's been a challenge on its own. But and like there's so many strange complications that this has brought about, and nobody has like there's no straight up advice on how you're supposed to do this because usually when there's been a pandemic and stuff in the world history, they didn't have internet or they didn't have the ability to really connect with each other. Like we had some illnesses and
yeah.
stuff, and like there's like SARS, there was H1N1, but those were not nearly to like the degree of infectivity of
Yeah.
Corona, and like they clearly didn't shut down the globe over those. So something's different this time. I don't know. I guess if you
I
want to like
think
get
I
your
think
tinfoil hat on.
it's almost impossible to really fully understand the impact of sort of the social media internet age on this, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Because I mean, it'd be interesting if you could talk about social experiments. It'd be interesting if you could run screen A and screen B, and on screen one is, Corona hits, but there's no social media, there's no internet,
Yeah,
and on this side, and just see the arc of how it all plays
they're
out.
both a
But
shit show, just in
I think
different
it's hard to
ways.
overstate the. I think it's hard to overstate the impact that social media and the internet has on this, because unfortunately, in my opinion, a lot of the news cycles are more tabloid, they're more sensationalistic now too,
Oh,
because
yes.
we understand that that's what drives metrics. And I'm not trying to say that
No, I agree.
all news is BS. I'm not on that train at all. I just mean that, even if you get into content creation, even at the grassroots level, right? Like, I
Mm,
look at stuff I'm doing, and I look at other channels that are doing really well. And I mean, there's fitness people and whatever that I follow, and it's like the more sort of grandiose, the more like
oh, yeah.
the more drama there is, the more feuding there is. Their growth is exponential, right?
Hmm.
And it's unfortunately that's a human trend
Yeah.
in media as well. And
100%.
so, I've never been super against sort of like CNN or anything like that, but just because I'm observing news cycles from different countries. Like, I try to watch European, Canadian, North American, like, I just whatever. I don't know. I'm just naming stupid shit, but I'm just trying to look at a variety of sources from different countries. And it's pretty remarkable how the same stories and situations are coming from so many different angles, especially when you look at CNN. It seems to be extra sensationalistic, and there's no, especially it seems like in North America, there's not a lot of unbiased journalism anymore.
No.
Like, it's so heavily slanted. It's almost like opinion piece after opinion piece, as opposed to,
Yeah.
just stating kind of the facts. And I really think that that's unfortunate, because I just think it sort of creates outrage in people, as opposed to bringing us together to find a common solution. I think it
Absolutely.
gets people, it plants these seeds of conspiracy and outrage. And because at the end of the day, they're generating more views. And so I think it's hard to overestimate how much of an impact that
Yeah.
has on us and our
Out.
thoughts and our opinions and beliefs.
Yeah. Outrage, like, yeah, sensationalistic news stuff, and the way people get outraged is the worst way we can try to interact and bring new ideas and new thoughts into each other. Like,
Yeah.
even when I was talking earlier a little bit about, like, the Black Lives Matter protests and stuff going on about that, I think, like, if you're unwilling, for example, to like look at things like systematic racism or just the way police conduct themselves and stuff, and the lack of accountability in parts in the states right now, I think that's unfortunate. Now, if you're on the far left side of things and you're just telling someone, like, how dare you, you not support this and da da da, like, you're not winning anyone over to your side. You're acting in outrage. You're acting in only anger. And I understand there is justified anger is a thing, but
Yep.
people can, not always, but people can often be met with intelligence, with compassion, and with patience. It's hard, and it's not your job to teach everyone, but if you're going to voice an opinion, and if you're going to use, like, your social media as a platform, if you're going to use your YouTube or whatever as a platform, and you're not willing to try to educate people, or if you're just willing to yell at people, the only people that are going to want to listen to you are
Yeah.
the people that already agree with you. Nobody that doesn't agree with
Oh,
you is going to want to
absolutely.
sit around and just listen to be yelled at. All you're doing
Yeah.
is trying to rile other people up into being outraged, and this is what causes this divisiveness. Obviously,
Oh,
you're
dude,
gonna
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
you're gonna meet people that are gonna probably just like have entrenched views that might just either be totally counterpoint. They might just be totally what you might consider evil or whatever. Like, and some people might not be swayed. But if you can't be relative, if you can't be compassionate and try to at least see where someone else might be coming from, where their some of their fears might be coming from, or where their own biases are coming from because they were brought up differently. It's like the first quote in The Great Gatsby. It's like, before you're going to criticize someone, keep in mind that they haven't had all the advantages you have, right? Keep in mind they haven't had the same schooling or haven't had the same upbringing and stuff. Like, look at where they've come from. Look at the state they live in, like literally the literal state they come from, and like what their family might be like, right? It's just, and the same goes for everyone, right? Like, if you can't be patient and try to like talk to someone about your viewpoint, if you can't explain it rationally or and with compassion, then all you're going to do is outrage, and you're just going to make more enemies. And then one side gets louder because they think, they might kind of agree, but then you get really angry about one specific thing, and they start panicking. So, like, okay, now I have to hunker down on the thing that I do agree with, instead of what maybe you might have had, a level of common ground that you could have connected with. Now you've destroyed that bridge by shaking it too much. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great points there, and it's a sad reality is that we're living in such like polarized times. Like
Yeah.
I just, it's sad to me. The piece that's the most depressing to me and the saddest is just that there's a certain level of hypocrisy in 2020 that to
Mm-hmm.
me just seems like it's at a peak. Like it seems like the people on one side are trying to, they're criticizing sort of like, traits of the other side, and then they're using the same tactics they're
Yeah.
criticizing to then try to get people on their side. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
we're
No.
living in a
Absolutely. Yeah.
culture
Yeah.
where people don't want to be like racism. Nobody wants to be generalized. Nobody wants to be told that because you look, let's say you have black skin that you're this, or you have white skin that you're that. Like, we're all fighting against that,
Yeah.
and yet it's the people on that side that then look at a police officer and say, well, you're all the same, right? Which, isn't
Yeah.
that the very thing you're trying to fight sort of
Exactly.
with
Right.
ignorance and racism,
Because
right?
not all
Like,
cops are
that's
bad.
what's sad to me. No, because I have a lot of friends that are police
Of
officers, and
course.
some of them are the most noble, honorable people I've ever
Absolutely.
met. And
Absolutely.
that's not to downplay. That's not to downplay. Like, again, I don't have that lived experience. I don't live in some of these
Mm-hmm.
maybe black neighborhoods. Like, if I lived what they lived, I would probably be like fucking outraged. So
Yeah.
I'm not trying to discredit that
Of
argument.
course
All I'm
not.
trying to say is that the answer isn't to then look at, like, because what's the difference if I judge you on your skin color or I judge you because you
Your
have
job.
a blue shirt on with a badge? Like,
Yeah.
you're both just, you're attributing characteristics to me and beliefs and thoughts when you've probably just had a bad experience with
Yeah.
a number of, like, a certain percentage, right? And
Yeah.
that's what's sad to me, is just that we're not going to change people's minds by discrediting people or pointing at them and saying you're the enemy. It's, again, like you said, it's trying to find some sort of common ground. And I know that that sounds cliche and it's hard to do, but it's the reality. If anything, in my experience in social work and mental health, is that if you push somebody away or call them an idiot and discredit them, it's not going to change their mind. It's often going to make them double
Absolutely.
down on their
Yeah.
beliefs. It's often going to
100%.
make
Yeah.
their beliefs more deep seated and rooted. Like, even me, as I guess as a white male, and I understand. Yes, I have been born with privileges that I'm not even aware of. I acknowledge that piece, but I'm just saying, when I listen to people talk about how I'm just immediately kind of an asshole and I'm ignorant
Yeah,
just
that's
because
not
of my,
fair.
like, it doesn't make me want to engage in an intellectual discussion and talk about issues. It just kind of makes me say, how do you know what my experience is like? Like,
Yeah.
and I get that, I just think I see people descending into more like almost like tribalism, right? Like,
Oh
people are
yeah.
trying to find meaning. They're trying to find meaning in their life, and they find it in these sort of existential struggles, these
Mhm.
fights for justice,
Yeah.
and I think they lose sight of the bigger picture. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I think
Well,
reality and truth is often in the middle, and we're losing sight of that, I think.
absolutely. We're all part of the same body. I think. Are you familiar with like meditations, Marcus Aurelius? Like, are you into like Stoicism at all or no?
No,
Oh,
no,
like
I'm
one of
not
the
so much.
one of the first like bits in the book is talking about like before
I
the people
find
you meet.
people that read that stuff are idiots. You see what I did there? I just
Yes,
judged you because, no, I'm just joking. I'm kidding. I
but
don't think
but
they're
I'm
idiots.
Tish. Um,
It was a terrible joke.
no,
That's what that was.
that's okay. Until like before, like I can't remember the exact full excerpt, but it's one of the first like meditations is the people you meet today will be like unruly, unjust, and like there'll be like all these things that will basically bother you. But remember, like there's a whole paragraph on it. I'm not gonna like go into the whole thing,
Right.
but like it's remember like we're all part of the same body. The eyes can't do anything without the
Yeah.
feet to move them, and we're all remember that we are all functionally one, and we're all in this together, right? If you try to like uncooperate, like fully just meet people with that animosity, you're not going to get along. I mean, a lot of people just don't want to, I guess, and they don't want to try to see that common ground. But like you said, that's the problem, right? Like I consider myself fairly liberal, but the far left itself, like they're as angry and vicious as like the far right, and they'll be as like attack based and like so
Yeah.
aggressive about their views and stuff for the exact same reasons. Like it's just not the same reasons, but the same things that they're criticizing. It's like, oh, they're a bunch of violent, like the
Well,
right. It's like bunch of
well,
whatever,
isn't
right?
that kind of the? Isn't that kind of sort of the? And again, I don't know that. I'm not but my interpretation
Yeah.
from a distance of like Antifa, which is anti-fascist, is that what it stands
Yeah.
for?
Yes.
But they use sort of very historically fascist techniques
Yes. Yeah.
to get their point. And so the irony of that is just, I find it just as a mental health and a social piece, I find that
Yeah.
kind of remarkable to watch, to
Yeah.
understand kind of because then you could make the argument then that
It's
fascism is, as long as you believe what you're doing is right, then according to that sort of logic, then that's not
yeah,
fascism.
that's
And
that's
then
definitely
it
like
all just becomes a matter of, perspective and what your beliefs are, right?
yeah. It's super strange. It's really
I don't know.
unfortunate that people I don't know, people like to fight for something, I guess, but it's really deeply sad that
I do. I
people
think,
would rather not
and I
get
think,
along. They want their
yeah,
side
I
to be
mean,
right. I don't know.
I think part of the problem is that it's sort of the pursuit of a goal, and the pursuit of justice is more alluring and appealing than arriving at justice. And I think people find a sense of identity and a
Mhm.
sense of purpose and a sense of something to fight for in these battles. And so sometimes I'm not even sure people want to get to the destination. They just like the struggle of being in it. And I think to some degree we're all, as people and as humans, when we have like something identified as the enemy, it gives us a sense of purpose,
You like to have
right?
a dragon to
And so,
fight, you know? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is sort of ideas that like Jordan Peterson sort of talks
Yeah.
about, and this is the kind of thing. But I do think that there's an element of that sort of psychology in this. Is that, and again, it's not surprising that this is happening during, especially during a pandemic, right?
Yes.
Because people are. I do believe some of this outrage is also manifesting itself from resentment of being locked up for 4 months,
I would think so, yeah.
and so even if it's not a conscious thing, subconsciously to some degree, I think people are extra angry,
Yeah.
because they've been, because they
Yeah.
don't have jujitsu, they can't choke each other
Dude, yeah,
legally.
it is a
you
nice
know
way to let out some steam for sure. How long have
yeah,
you
yeah, absolutely.
you got your black belt just last year, right?
Yeah,
Or was
I
it
mean, I
earlier
guess
this
it's
year?
been almost.
I can't remember.
No,
No,
it
it was
was
last
it
year. It
was
was last
right
year.
after it was right after I got back from California, from
Yes,
the
yeah.
Nogi Worlds. It was
Oh, yeah.
December. It was December, like mid December.
Before we
So
before we go on, I will let people know listening
yeah,
to have your black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu is quite a feat. It for most people it takes, I would say, on the low end, if you're like gifted and training often, minimum, I would say like 8 years would be very fast. For most people, it's usually 10 to 15.
yeah,
I
I
would say is
think
very average. I think that like
yeah, I would
that if
say
you got
that.
it in 8, you would be like an anomaly. I would say. So it's quite different than your nephew having black belt in karate or taekwondo. Not that that's not
Yeah, yeah,
cool.
it's a
Good
little
for
different.
them. But just
Not that
sorry.
not
Yeah.
that there's anything wrong with
Yeah,
that.
just to make it
No,
clear, to
it's
say Paul is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is quite a feat. That is a lot of dedication and time of his life that he has spent doing this fantastic martial art.
Well, it's interesting because I've done some pretty cool stuff. Like my getting my BA and my masters was not easy.
Yeah.
um, going through music and doing a lot of stuff. I had some success, but like honestly, getting the black belt in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu was the most difficult thing ever. Like it just because it's emotionally so exhausting, and it just takes such a toll on your body.
Oh yes. Yeah.
You go through so many injuries, and you go through, you just see so many people come and go too, and
Yeah.
it's like when you get to black belt, I don't think that it doesn't mean like it's, oh, this guy's the best. It's just like, it's almost like it's like a lifetime achievement award in the
Yeah.
sport, because
Absolutely.
it's so hard to stick it out for more than a decade, and
Yeah.
it took me about 15 years, and it still kind of hasn't really hit me, I guess, but I've never really put too much stock in it though. Like, it's awesome. Like, I love being a black belt, but since Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is obviously more of a reality based sport,
Yeah.
unlike some other martial arts, there's people that rank is not, it doesn't mean the be all and end all. Like, you'll see young guys that come up that have been training for a
Oh yeah.
lot less time, and they're already better than you. And it's just, but that's what's great about it, is it's just, you
Always
are what you
humbling.
are. It's not like, oh, this one has the the darkest color belt, therefore he's the best, you
Yeah.
know?
It still
Or
means you're dangerous though. Like it still means like you know
yeah,
your
oh
shit.
no, no,
You're a
no.
well of knowledge and you can probably mess up most people in the room.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mean it like that. I just mean when you train a lot and you meet so many people and you roll with
Yes.
different students at different gyms, you just realize that like it's a very relative thing. I mean, obviously to get to that level, you have to have proven it to some degree. And I'm
Mhm.
happy that I did. Like I never wanted to, I never wanted to just get it because I just showed up. Like that's why when I competed in 2019, especially at the Nogi Worlds, like I was really happy to get it because I felt like people might roll and know me or whatever and be like, whatever, maybe he should, maybe he shouldn't. But I feel like you can't take away sort of the competition accolades from
Absolutely.
me,
Oh, absolutely
Like
never.
you might have an opinion. You might think I'm awesome. You might think I'm crap, whatever. But it's like, I
Yeah,
know
nobody
that I
does.
did whatever I could to get it. And it
Absolutely.
wasn't just like, hey, Paul, here you go. You've been training X number of years. You come out 2 to 3 times a
No,
week.
it's
There you
yeah.
go. Like I never wanted to get it that way. Like
No, I feel
you know
like
what I mean?
as far as I mean, from the gyms that I know, like at least to speak of Parabellum and the other ones that I know of people that go to them and stuff, most jiu-jitsu gyms are really not like about an attendance thing. With Rory, you definitely,
Oh
I
man,
definitely felt
Rory.
like I did.
Yeah.
Like honestly, I still didn't feel like I deserved it when I got it, but you do know that if he gives you a belt, you did well, you earned it, you were doing well at either competition or you've proven yourself in the room. And it's not just a matter of like, okay, I showed up 3 times a week for 2 years, and here's your blue belt. Although I mean, like,
Well,
there is something. Obviously, you do have to keep showing up, and you do have to keep coming back. That is the trying thing. But that's what it is with jiu-jitsu. It is a grind. It is difficult, and it is a marathon and not a sprint, and it will exhaust you. And the amount of times that I've chosen to go to class, and I'm like, I really don't want to go tonight, but then I've had a great time. But
yeah,
it
absolutely.
builds that mental toughness. Sometimes we're a little bit too pig-headed and stuff, but it is
Well, that's yeah.
yeah, it does breed that, and I'm so glad I found it.
Well, first of all, I mean, we're talking about Rory McDonald at Parabellum. Rory's the best coach I've ever had. Like
He's great.
he's a beast. But really, if you get promoted under him, you've earned it. Like there's no question. I mean,
Hmm.
I sort of like Rory's mentality because he's more old school kind of about it.
Yeah,
He's very difficult to get promoted under, and that's a good thing.
yeah,
I do think, and I'm not calling out any gyms or anything, but I do think there's a sentiment more in the Brazilian Jiu Jitsu community now where it's become a little bit more of a business. It's become a little bit less. Um, rank is a lot more relative to the individual now. Like when I first started, it was like, oh my god, like it was much more like, it was more like Rory, where it was like you could be a
yeah,
purple belt for 10 years.
yeah,
And now it's a little bit different. That's not to say that people that get promoted don't deserve it, because I think they do, and I think that's totally up to your instructor to call it.
yeah,
Um, but I think, just given that things are changing a bit, I'm just extra happy that I felt like I tried to prove it in competition as best I could,
yeah,
you know. Um, and so, and that's not a knock against anybody else. I'm just really hard on myself, and I know that if I hadn't kind of gone that way, I
yeah.
probably would have always doubted it, you
Will you
know.
still compete in the
Um,
future?
that's sort of my plan. I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, I don't know how many more I have in me, and I'm not trying
Hmm.
to sound like I'm sure I will. It's just I was willing in 2019 to risk like my physical health to try to compete and train as hard as I could.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I almost I had to cancel surgery on my ankle twice. I'm
Did you
probably
ever?
still gonna have to have that
I was about
that
to ask.
done.
You did not get that done yet? Fair enough. Okay.
No, no,
Eh,
I didn't. So
that's okay.
I sprained
This
it
would be the time to
incredibly.
do it. There's nothing. There's no more training
Yeah,
to be
I
done.
could have.
Uh,
The problem with it is that it's the biggest issue with it is there's a lot of I had two complete tears. I had a high ankle complete tear and a
yeah.
lateral complete tear. And then there was a third ligament that was more than 50% torn. But the real bastard of it is that
Oof.
I got a deep fracture called an osteochondral lesion on it.
That
And
doesn't sound. That
basically
sounds terrible.
the like we have different types of cartilage. Like in your knee, you have a meniscus, but that's like a
I know of it.
sponge.
Yes.
So like you have articular cartilage that's basically hard bone, and
Hmm.
basically a piece of that broke. And so there's like it's effectively like a canker sore or a divot in the bone. And so they have to go in and do something called microfracture surgery. So it's not even that I would have had to get like a ligament replaced, which would have
Yeah.
sucked, but they have to go in and drill into the bone to make it bleed. But the healing is atrocious. Like, and the success rate isn't even that good.
Oh
So
shit.
I
Okay.
was I was kind of like, I don't know, man. Like
Does it not
it
bother
was
you
a
that?
mess. It hurts, but
Okay.
I've kind of it's basically sort of like having like arthritis. It's like I go through periods where it's not bad, and then other days it swells up like it looks like a turkey leg. And so I've learned to manage, and because jujitsu isn't the biggest issue, is mostly the pounding. Like if I was a runner, or if I played a lot of basketball or something where there's a lot of
Yeah.
jumping and impact, there's no way. But because in jujitsu, I don't, I'll wrestle, but I don't have to.
Usually low
There's not
impact.
a lot of, yeah, so it's not as bad. But
Yeah.
like when I walk my dog for long periods of time, it hurts and I
Hmm.
get a lot of swelling. But it's something I'll do probably eventually. But he said to me, he's like, healing is probably going to be at least 6 to 8 months. And he said, it could be a year. He said he has people that are like a year and a half, 2 years, and they're still not 100%.
Shit.
And I just was like, I don't know, man. I just said, I'm going to just try to ride it out.
That's fair. Yeah.
So I just decided it wasn't worth it. And
Okay.
maybe that will prove to be a mistake, but I have no regrets
That's
because
good.
everything worked out
L-
great. But
Listen, man, there's definitely something to be said about, going to Worlds and throwing it all on the table like that and, saying like, fuck it, I could do this surgery, but I'm going to do this instead and see what I can do. And like, you took silver, didn't you? You
yeah,
def-
I made it to the finals
that's very
and
good.
lost in disappointing fashion. No, I'm super proud of that.
You
That was
should,
big for me just personally. Like, I don't know. I never thought that would be possible.
yeah,
Um, and it's so crazy to me because like when I look back, especially what's happened in 2020, like all of the whole sort of philosophy I had in 2019 competing was basically like, because the ankle thing was really severe, and I didn't know, like with the surgery, if I'd be like, there was times where I was like, I don't know if I'll be able to really do this anymore, because
yeah,
the ankle was floppy and giving out, and I
floppy.
was in so much pain, and like it was disgusting. And the whole time I got back, I was just like, you know what, you just never know when this can be taken away from you. And that
Yeah,
sounds cheesy, but that's how I felt. And I said, I want to make the most of it. Like I said, I knew I wasn't going to probably be a brown belt forever. And I said, let's just see what I can do, like what's to be lost. But it's so ironic that that was sort of my philosophy, because on the other side of this, I never would have imagined that it could have been taken away like this,
yeah,
you know? But that's kind of how I felt. So I'm extra grateful that it all happened before this,
yeah,
because I feel like it's a nice sense of accomplishment to have, especially just before a really like indefinite break.
yeah.
I feel like I kind of
Well,
crossed a bit of one finish line
yeah,
before. I mean, I still have a lot I want to do, but
yeah. I
it's
wonder when
just, I don't know, it's
competitions will be
weird.
a thing again with this whole, this going on right now.
I don't see it until there's a vaccine. I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't
Did you
I think there
listen?
will be some sort of modified training to some degree, but
Well,
I
gyms
can't
are
see
opening back
big.
up. Bora just opened back up, didn't they?
Yeah, but it's with social distancing.
Yeah. Not.
So
It's not really
these
jujitsu.
gyms are, these gyms are allowed to open basically with tape squares where you're no contact. Um, Eventually we may be able to have like a partner, like a
Yeah.
designated partner, and we may be able to get to a small group training where you all train on the same day with the same people, but I don't know, man. That's up in the air. But as far as like mass gatherings, like a tournament, I just don't see that until
No.
there's,
A vaccine.
it's definitely out this year, maybe next year, but
What made you
I don't
fall in
know.
love with jujitsu? Like, and when did you find it? Like, what? How old were you?
I
And
some
what?
I sometimes wonder. I didn't start till I was almost 30, so I'm about to turn 42 in
Oh,
August,
okay, I started at
and
26.
so I started. Okay, so we kind of started. I probably
Roughly,
was
yeah.
20. I, yeah, I was probably 28, 29,
Yeah.
something like that. Um, what made me fall in love with it? I don't honestly know, because it was not something that ever came naturally to me. Like I always, I was probably among the worst,
But
if not the worst
something
guy.
brought you back though. Like you went and you were
Mhm.
like, that was pretty cool. I'm gonna go back and do that. That sucked, but I want to go do it again. So like something must
Yeah,
have
it's weird.
hit
I
your
think I
ire.
like. I mean, I always found it really. I always found sort of like individual sports more interesting. And there was just something about the self-defense reality part of it that I think was really interesting. And I don't know, there was just something about um the difficulty of it. Like the
Yeah,
training was always super hard, but it was just one of the more rewarding things when things would go right because it was so difficult,
yeah,
you know?
that's very
But
true.
dude, there's so many days over the years where I've like left practice and I'm like, I don't know why I do this. Like I'm just
Yes,
like
that's fair.
so I get
Uh,
so frustrated at myself and I'm just like this is hopeless. Like I'm never,
yeah,
and I still feel like that a lot. Like I still leave so many days of practice from like, why do I still do this? But I don't know, just the butterflies get going. I'm always pumped to go back even
yeah.
after a bad session. I
Hmm.
always crash and sometimes I'm like, I hate this, but then literally a few hours later I'm ready to go again. So
It's
I
very
don't know, man.
strange how like it does become quite addictive, and it hits something in you that's like that's actually really cool. And like you said, there's something about like something being kind of hard and kind of sucking that
Yeah.
makes it kind of gratifying. There's definitely like I mentioned earlier that like level of like a little bit of like machiness, a little bit of chest beating, like you're rolling around, like you're
Yeah.
grappling, you're trying to kill each other.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, exactly.
but yeah, it's there's something to be said about working at something that's very hard. My girlfriend's a perfectionist and she likes being good at things, but she'll usually give up. She's like, if I'm not good at it, I'm not she
Yeah.
doesn't do it. I'm like, Bunny, sometimes you have to be bad at things. It's important. Sucking at something is the first step to being kind of good at something. Um, and I definitely sucked at jiu-jitsu, and I still feel like I mostly suck most of the time. Every once in a while, I feel like I kind of get
No, you're
something,
doing well.
but yeah, there's definitely something to be said about coming back when something's like very difficult and like just enjoying the grind of it. Obviously, though, like I said, there are nights that I leave and I'm like, this is like I know I'm gonna go back, but I'm like, fuck, that sucked. That was a bad night. I'm like covered in sweat. I like feel like I'm gonna vomit. I'm just like, I'm gonna go home. I don't even want to have to cook dinner, but I know I have to, and I'm like, just wanna fucking die.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, man.
but
No, I think that you're also in a very difficult training room. Like
oh
Parabellum's a
yeah,
tough room. It's
a
intense
lot of
and
killers.
I mean, but you're doing well. Like I look at guys like you and I feel like God, I wish that like you've had some really great tournament
I had a
performances,
couple okay
you've
ones, but they're out like
yeah, but
at white belt. I won a couple golds and stuff, but that's nobody gives a shit about that.
no, that's not true. I think winning at any level is not easy. Like it's all relative. Like you've only been training for what, 3 years or something you said?
Technically, it'll be 4 in September, not including this. I guess
Yeah,
like
but you
including this whole like
basically
hiatus.
2020 is the
I
fucking
started
write
in
off.
fall of 2016.
Oh,
So yeah,
dude, yeah, man.
yeah,
Like, no, you're already way ahead of me. Like most of you guys, like when I look at you guys, like at the Parabellum crew especially, like
yeah.
you
We
guys are
got some very
way like
talented individuals in there.
you guys are so far ahead. Like
Yeah,
you guys are so far ahead of where like you guys by the time you get to like even half of my training, you guys are all gonna be fucking better than me. Like it's
when
just you gotta but that's the thing, is the one thing I'll say that I think the only advantage I feel like I ever had over people, because it wasn't my athleticism, it's not, it's just that I feel like I deal with failure better than most people. Like,
that's
because I've failed at a lot. I feel like I've failed at a lot of shit for most of my life. And it doesn't rattle me the same way that it rattles a lot of people. And I see that a lot. Like,
yeah,
especially people that are good at it at first, because we all hit the wall. Everybody hits that
of
next
course.
rank where you go from
Blue
white to
belt
blue or blue to
blues.
purple. But it's just like, holy shit. And I've
Yeah,
seen so many people that
dude, I
have
feel
just literally every conceivable advantage over me, but they're just not as resilient in terms of dealing with failure or
yeah.
rejection.
It's
And it's
important.
sad, but it's just the way that it kind of is.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact wording of the saying, but like someone who succeeds is just someone who is very good at failing. or what? It's something like it's
Yeah,
something
I'm a
like that,
black
right?
belt in failure. That's what
It,
I'm a
it's
black
something
belt
it's
in
something like
failure.
that, right? Because like you look at someone like on the
Shit.
podium, but you don't really see all the steps that it actually took to go there, and
Yeah.
how many things they actually had to build, and how much heartbreak and failure and literal blood, sweat, and tears in the sense of jiu-jitsu, right? Like all of those things. Um, and this is true to a lot of things in life, but I always like. I'm sure my girlfriend hates the amount of times I use jiu-jitsu as a metaphor for it. Like, oh, it's kind of like jiu-jitsu, babe. Let me explain it to you like this.
Enough with the jujitsu metaphors for
But
Christ's
it, it
sakes.
it is though in a lot of ways. Like there isn't a lot of things that like really grind you out like that in such a tangible way that like, oh yeah, this is a lot kind of like this. And being able to
It
handle
is
your
though.
losses and take it with with a grain of salt and understand like this is just what it is. It checks your ego very very early on. I remember the first time I did not grow up athletic. I had asthma growing up. I was a skinny kid, and I only ever started working out because I wanted to fill out T-shirts. That's it.
Okay.
I did not play any
That's
sports.
interesting. You strike me as like I would have assumed you were kind of an athletic guy. Like you
No,
weren't
not even a
into
little bit.
sports,
I
but
played video games and
interesting.
stuff. Like I did not do any sports and stuff in high school. Nothing. Picked last for every sport.
Really?
Yeah. So I remember like I had I'm doing this sport and I never thought I'd get into a combat sport at 26. I just thought I'd enjoy some like fun cardio and ended up falling in love with it. But so I'm like, hey dad, come watch. So like the first night he comes and watch me does a sport like ever like this. I guess he like taekwondo is like an 8-year old. It doesn't count. Like this is me doing a sport. And he like comes out to watch and I roll with
Yeah.
do you remember Robin? Like she younger Filipino
Oh yeah,
girl.
yeah.
Yeah, I roll
Black
with her.
hair.
Yeah, she fucking
Yeah, yeah.
annihilated me. She like armbarred me. She like
Oh,
triangled
nice.
me. And my dad's watching, and I was just like, oh, the first time my dad watches me just sort of
Welcome to
like,
jujitsu.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, exactly. But I mean, it actually didn't demotivate me that much. It was actually kind of like, no, I wouldn't say like I wasn't proud about that, but it was like, hey, it's cool. This stuff actually works. Like, look, I'm clearly bigger and stronger than her, and she just fucked me up. Like, this is pretty cool.
Exactly.
That's pretty
Exactly.
cool, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was probably like, I was like maybe like 4 months in at the time. But I remember my first competition was terrifying. My mom did not have a fun time watching me do that. Like some guy was like clearly like cut a bunch of weight to get into my division, and he just
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
held on to like a guillotine that he couldn't finish, and my neck hurt for like 2 months after. And it was just like I
Yeah,
just
yeah.
got
Oh yeah.
he just got picked up and slammed as soon as the match started, and we waited like 3 hours for the match. It was just a really rough day, and somehow I decided
Oh
I'm
yeah.
still gonna come back. That was fun. My mom was terrified. She was like, "Please don't ever go back." And be like, I'm gonna go back. I have fun doing it."
I'm gonna go back.
Yeah, it's
I think parents look at it as, I mean, I don't think they quite understand it fully, but they don't understand that like by going through it, it does make you, if you can get through it, it just makes you more resilient,
yeah, of
and
course.
it's a great skill to have just in terms of self-defense to a certain
Yeah,
degree. Like
of course.
like I think that tournaments are always like, I don't know, I still get stressed the fuck out
Who
over
the fuck
tournaments.
doesn't?
Like
It's a tournament. Yeah,
I
it's
mean
scary. It's
I mean,
fucking scary.
I mean, I even heard in an interview like Keenan Cornelius has won just about everything.
Yeah,
He still hates it and pukes and
sure.
stuff like that.
Yeah,
So it's like if those guys don't get accustomed to it,
yeah,
nobody ever does. I don't think.
yeah.
Do you intend to, like, is the plan for you to compete more if we ever get back?
I'll compete again for sure. I mean, like
Yeah.
yeah, no, I guess technically I could move up to masters if I wanted to, but I probably won't. I'll
Yeah.
probably see how I'm 30 now, so technically I can, but I feel like if you're at 30 and you're doing it, you probably should wait till you're like 33 or 34.
The young gun. You're the new guy in town. Everyone's like,
Yeah,
look at this guy. He's so
then it might be a
young.
little bit easier, but like, cause dude, the last time it was my first blue belt competition, so I didn't really know what to expect, and I don't think I trained enough for it. But I had a pretty, I won bronze. I like technically won 2 matches, but they were pretty like. The ones that I lost are pretty frustrating, and one I lost by
Yeah.
DQ. My second DQ in the tournament. Very fun times. I'm
Oh
sure Roy
right,
was
you're
very
the guy
happy
with
about that.
you always with the the bear trap
No, it
DQs.
was a
That's
front. Yeah,
awesome.
I got DQ'd for like a front naked choke or whatever because I did like a rear naked choke
Oh
grip on the
come
front of the.
on, that's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
it was apparently like someone. Remember the first quintet and like remember how it was like the fight near the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was like one of those guys. Apparently, he started a fight. It was apparently like his girlfriend that was the coach, or that was the ref of that match. And yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was just like I don't know. But it was a total like I showed it to Roy and he's like that was a stupid call. But like you'll get a lot of refs that don't think that's a DQ, some that do, and some that have never seen it before and don't even know what the fuck you did. I was like, oh, I thought it was fine. I do it all the time in the room. Nobody said anything, but I
Yeah,
was I
I'm
was
kind of
super
like,
frustrated.
I don't know. Some of the I'm kind of like, I'm more progressive a bit when it comes to rule sets.
Oh yeah,
I don't necessarily like. I get. I'm not like the kind of person that like everybody should do everything at white belt. But I do think we tend to put off a lot of stuff way too late in
Oh yeah.
jiu-jitsu. Like that you can't do any sort of leg attacks till you're basically a brown belt to me is ludicrous.
We've had pretty few
Um,
injuries and stuff in our gym with leg attacks. I think like you had it wasn't even your fault, it was Alex's fault. Somehow he hurt
so
himself.
it
I don't
was
know.
literally
Yeah.
escaping a leg lock and he made his knee explode.
Interesting.
Um,
But
yeah, that
I
was I've
don't
never seen that happen before.
yeah, we've been pretty like we teach leg locks and like Rory's pretty adamant about like, if you don't understand what you're doing, don't actually do it.
Yeah.
You're here to keep your partner safe. Has a less give than like a Kimura. And I mean, I haven't seen so many injuries in the gym. There was one like doing like a takedown where I hurt like an older guy, Brian. I still feel bad about that, but that was years ago back when.
Takedown?
Yeah, we were doing like I can't remember what it was called, but it was like you stand on the side and you like dip your leg in between theirs and you fall back. And I guess he was like
Okay.
I
Oh
don't know if
yeah.
I did it wrong or he wasn't paying attention, but he like basically his like ankle like went the other way and it was pretty brutal. Sucked. And I don't
But
think
that's the thing is there's more I think there's generally more injury potential in dynamic movements like
yes.
takedowns
Yeah.
because there's so much uncontrolled body weight. I have honestly I've been doing leg locks for close to 3 like everything for close to about 3 years and I have yet to really in training like I've seen people in
Yeah.
competition do like stuff really
Yeah, of
hard but
course.
like I just don't see people getting hurt through reaps and controlled stuff. Like I
Yeah,
think
that's
most
stupid.
of the fear of it is that people don't learn it, so they don't understand. Like imagine nobody taught you a Kimura and you had no idea kind of where the danger was or where the breaking point was or how
Yeah.
much I think it's
Yeah, and then
mostly
if
the
you
way
just
that
like
it's taught.
immediately just like dude, yeah, you would fucking annihilate someone.
Yeah,
It like
like if you just sat through on it. Again, that's not to say that I think white belts should be heel hooking the shit out of each other. I don't mean that, but there's a big gap between saying you shouldn't do it at white belt and you can't do it until you're a brown belt. Like
yeah.
you could be training for over 10 years before you get a brown belt. And
Yeah.
then what? All of a sudden you're going to start playing with it then? That's crazy to me. Like that
Yeah, for
seems
sure.
I don't see any problem with allowing a lot of that stuff at purple belt.
I
You
agree.
should be able. You should be start training it maybe at blue belt.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe if you don't want to do heel hooks, but I don't know. I just have a very like even for Asahabi, who's one of the head MMA gyms in Canada and the world.
Yeah.
He talks about sort of the idea of like catch and release with heel hooks and stuff. Like you're not there to rip it. You're there to kind of get it to a point where
Of course.
you barely need to. You just need to like you
You
shouldn't
don't
have to rely on speed and aggression to hit it. If you are, I don't think it's a reliable technique anyway.
and
You know?
someone who like doesn't know what's going on, if you have to let go, like that they were in a bad position. If they don't know, that's fine. Like you can explain that to them later, but like that also comes
Yeah.
into the ego checking thing. Like it's not that important to just like some guy that just came in. Nobody wants to actually like. I hope not. I don't think anyone in that gym like Rory's really good about like. There's no douchebags and stuff there that we just want to hurt people. Though that's not that attitude is not
Rory,
allowed.
Rory's a douchebag.
He fills the quota. I love Rory.
He
He's a
just
great
fills
guy.
the quota. No, I
Yeah,
love
he's
you,
a
Rory.
great guy. Fantastic coach. But like you're not like if someone's like doesn't know what to do in a straight ankle lock, and they just start panicking. Or just all right, I'm gonna let go. I'm like, hey buddy, don't do that next time. But it's okay. Whatever, right?
I literally did one class. We were getting ready for a tournament. People wanted to know more about leg locks. I literally did like a short lesson on like just general reap safety as the person being attacked and how to kind of deal with it and get out of it. And
Yeah.
like after literally like 20 minutes of they were all remarkably good at just being like, "Oh, okay." And they would just start getting out
Yeah.
of stuff. It's
Well,
like it doesn't take a rocket scientist to kind of, the problem is people don't know what to do, so they get stuck in a reap and they like straighten their leg really hard and they explode the wrong way and they basically screw their own knee up,
oof. Yeah. But I
But
mean, if you teach
again,
people,
I reckon. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just saying, if you like teach people, hey, this is dangerous. Be smart with it. Like, do it. If you're gonna do it on someone in a roll, do it slowly. Let them try to work the defense and stuff. And you know, like if there's that little, like if there's so little time and stuff to like either injure or not injure someone, teach people the respect of that. And like, okay, this is a tool to have in competition that you can hit really hard, but it's not like an armbar where you have a lot of give and stuff. And people know that, and they know to, hit it slowly. Every time I've ever been put in a leg lock by like Ryan or Tom or you or anyone else or Barrett, all fantastic leg lockers, it's always been like, all right, here you go. All right, and like, okay, I'm gonna stop it here because people know and people respect, and nobody actually wants to blow out your fucking ACL, in a fucking, in the training room, because that would be really bad.
No, and I mean, I don't know. I mean, look, I'm not an idiot too. I understand the potential for damage is
Of
there. I
course, yes.
understand that with knee submissions, especially, the margin for error is small. I get that. I understand that. I'm not
Yeah.
an idiot, but I'm just saying I do think that there's a. I always try to say, like, be a little more, like, attack leg locks, but be a little more playful with them. Don't be so.
Yes.
If
Yeah.
if you really want to be more aggressive, go for the chokes, go for arm bars and stuff. But attack legs, but don't have the intention of, like, I got to finish this at all costs. Like,
Yeah.
get to the create tension in their knee, feel it. In fact, the people that I've seen that have kind of gotten sort of tweaked is usually they just don't, they're idiots and they don't want to tap. Like, they'll get caught in a knee bar.
Yeah.
And I'm
Niba.
literally like slowly arching, looking at them. And we both are feeling tremendous tension, but they don't want to tap. So I'm going to kind of keep going.
Yeah.
And then they're like, my knee. And it's kind of like, I know, but I looked at you for like 15 seconds, like, kind of like, is this, because they don't want to tap.
Yeah, but that's, yeah, you gotta check your ego
So
at the
you
door with that.
gotta,
It's too dangerous to fuck with.
well, and it's true. And I think the problem is too, is if you're playing the leg lock game, you might be rolling with a white belt, but you get caught in a deep heel hook. It's like, you better tap. And so
Yeah,
some
still,
people
of
don't want
course,
to do that.
absolutely, yeah. Well, that's the thing. You
Gotta
never
eat
know.
it.
At like a parabellum, you might have white belts that like might know some leg locks. It's like, oh shit, you got to be careful.
Oh,
This is,
100%.
yeah,
100%.
yeah.
No, but I think that that's too big of a, that's such a big issue in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, is I can't tap to somebody lower ranked or whatever because it's a big ego
Silly.
hit. And it's
Yeah.
just like, I mean, I get it, but it's kind of like, at the end of the day, man, like, just, you
Mhm.
shouldn't, if you're going in and the only thing that matters is that you never get tapped, then you're probably not going to, you're probably holding yourself back to some degree.
Yeah.
You got to be willing to play with certain positions and ideas, So,
Absolutely. Yeah. You definitely have to keep an open mind. No,
like,
another.
literally, I remember when I first started leg locking, I started to come to Parabellum,
Yeah.
and I had never been in the saddle before. It was like one of the first times I got there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God, I'm here. And then I got kimura'd by a white belt. And I was like, 'cause
Shit.
I don't know. I've never, like, I was kind of like, I don't know what the hell to do here. So it's kind of like, I'm
Yeah.
not going to let him rip my arm off out of pride. I didn't even think I wasn't even thinking that. So it's like, you're going to get yourself caught in stuff when you're experimenting. Because
Yeah.
you're not, it's just not your strength, I still remember that. I was like,
Well, back to more life metaphors, right?
yeah, I was like, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's a bit of an issue in the sport, but
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to ask too a little bit about your
yeah.
music.
Oh yeah.
How long you been writing music for?
I was never trained as a musician. I taught myself. I come from sort of a musical family. Like, I have my actually, this is my grandfather's piano here.
Oh, cool.
I got it brought to my house.
Like a
I grew up with this
grandfather
thing,
piano.
the
Is that what they're
grandfather
called?
piano.
Yeah, that's what they're called.
I
right?
had this thing in my house growing up as a child that my sister kind of played, but she hated playing.
Yeah.
And we sold the house, and I didn't know how to play, but I said, get this thing to my house because I want
Nice.
it.
Yeah.
And then I taught myself it. But
Nice.
I probably started the guitar at probably around in high school, so probably maybe like 16 or something. And I was always more interested. I learned a lot of cover songs, but I was just always drawn to writing more. I don't know. It was just something that. So it's not like I can play. I can play a lot of cover songs, but I went more the route of just trying to write right off the hop.
Yeah.
And so I probably wrote on and off from 16 till now.
Oh wow.
A bit, like,
Yeah.
I made like little DVDs, little CDs
Yeah.
of demos I made. But I didn't really take the plunge into trying to do it seriously till probably 2010, 2011. And
Okay.
that's when I went all in, and I just basically did it full time for 5-6 years.
Nice.
Um,
Yeah, I've listened to your stuff on Spotify. It's good.
it's super uplifting. It's
Yeah.
very motivational.
Uh,
No, I was always drawn to sort of that introspective stuff.
Yeah.
It's kind of sad, depressing, but it's a little more. I get people always say it reminds them of City and Color a little bit because I have kind of a softer
Yeah.
voice. It's
Everyone likes
introspective.
City in Color, I
Some
think.
people do, some people don't. Some people are not into it,
Well,
but
a lot of City and Color, I guess, like a lot of the albums are basically the same as the last album. But it's like you like Dallas Green. He's got a great voice. He's got
yeah,
nice chords
what's
and everything. Yeah.
ironic is I mean I went to high school with him, so
Oh,
he's a
really?
little yeah, we both went to Dennis Morris in St. Catharines,
Oh, okay.
and he's younger than me. I think I don't even Dallas might be 40 or he's 39 or something like
Okay.
that. So we were in the same like actually I remember I didn't music was so not on my radar then,
Yeah.
really, like early in high
Did he
school
write
that
music back then?
oh dude, he was already like a celebrity. Like
Oh, was
people
he? Oh,
like
shit.
yeah, I mean, this kid was writing stuff. I remember listening to some of his demos in high school.
Really?
I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this guy's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I remember him more from basketball because I tried to play
Really?
basketball,
Huh.
and I always remember him from that. And I actually remember the day that he told me that he was in Alexis on Fire because he used to work at the movie theater
That's
at the
so
Penn
cool.
Center.
Yeah.
And we weren't like buddies. Like I mean, we knew each other to say hi and stuff like that,
Yeah.
like through basketball. But I remember I was always like, dude, your solo stuff is really good. And he was always like, whatever. But then I remember the day I saw him at the movie theater and he told me he joined a screaming band. And I literally left and I was like, that is the worst. I was like, why would he do that? Like, that's
Yeah.
the dumbest thing. And sure enough, it was Alexis on Fire.
And they
So
basically put post-hardcore on the
what I-
map, and like they are, well, I mean, they're Canadian. Yeah, they are Canadian post-hardcore, and they are one of the biggest bands in the scene, or at least were.
But the point is like at the time I remember his voice and his songs to me were so
Hmm.
like unbelievable. I was like, what a waste. Like he's
Yeah.
such a so but I think the whole City and Color thing launched his so it's kind of funny that I get that. Like I've never tried to be City and Color. Like I can't really write or sound any I just sound the way I sound. Like if
Yeah, of
somebody
course.
said sound like fucking Nickelback, I couldn't do that, you know. So Nickelback never made it as a one. So I got
remember that
into
song.
that, and yeah, it went as about as well as it could. Like the music industry is, man, it's rough. Like I put more work into that 5-6 years than I've put into anything because I was, I managed my own tour across Canada.
Oh, wow.
I drove myself. I had shows in every all these cities out west and all the way back.
Yeah.
I did two records. I won a couple of awards. I got a lot of radio play across Canada, mostly on college stations. It was number one in St. Catharines on their charts.
Oh, great.
I had a really great run on Spotify. I made a bunch of Spotify curated playlists.
Yeah.
But the thing with music is there's no middle ground. It's like there's the elite kind of people that sort of make it, and then
Yeah.
there's just this vast nothingness where it's
Of
so
like
hard
so
to
many
make
undiscovered
money.
artists. Yeah.
Holy Christ.
Yeah.
And what I realized is that if I was going to I ended up getting a house that I live in now, and I was with my girlfriend at the time. We bought this place, and I just realized that I was almost 40, and I was kind of like, if I'm going to do this, I understood what it was going to take to make it. And
Yeah.
man, I would have had to live out of my car for the rest of
Yeah, it's a
it's
lot.
just, oh my God. And
Lot
I
of
ended up
work.
playing to make ends meet. I would play weddings. I would play wineries. I'd play bars.
Yeah.
And I didn't really enjoy doing that, but
Mhm.
it's a sort of a necessity because they pay pretty well for a gig.
Yeah. Do you?
But,
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, it's fine. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I don't mean to
No,
interrupt
so I did that. I was playing bars every weekend, and I'm not even a bar guy. I don't even drink.
Yeah.
I literally don't
you.
drink.
You drink coffee all day.
I just
But
look,
like the one coffee all day.
I bought this at about 2 p.m.
Jesus
Still
fuck.
going. Look how much is in this thing. Too.
Paul, what the fuck, man?
I bought this at 2 p.m. Can you see? There's still a ton of coffee in there.
I don't know why I'm leaning over. It's not how that works.
You get? Look at that.
I can't.
It's
Paul, man,
look at
that's
that. It's like
Paul.
near the
That's
top.
the fucking cold. Okay, so for people who
No,
obviously
but I
don't know, Paul,
microwaved it.
every time he'll come to jiu-jitsu class, he'll have a fucking Tim Hortons extra large silo of coffee that he's probably been drinking since
Silo.
about noon that day, and it's literally like cold or at best lukewarm, and it's the same cup of coffee. Somebody just makes the cup of coffee last this long, and
Literally,
I
dude,
don't.
I've had that much in
That's
like 8 hours.
like you see me drink. I drank this whole water like in the hour we've been talking. And I'm thirsty still. I don't know how you do that.
Well, listen. I'm not a psychopath. I microwaved it before the interview. Like, let's be reasonable here.
Oh well, okay, good.
It's, so
It's only
still,
it's only
it's
old
still,
coffee, but at least it's warm. Okay, fair enough.
it's still lukewarm to some
Oh
degree.
Jesus. Okay.
Oh Christ! I don't even know what I was talking about.
We were talking
but-
about music stuff, and you were
Yeah,
talking about
yeah.
living out of your car, and then talking about you didn't like playing wineries and
Oh, yeah,
and
yeah.
bars
Well,
and
no,
stuff. You're
'cause
not
I
a
don't
bar
drink,
guy.
right?
You
So
don't drink. Yes,
I'd
that was the
literally
thought.
be
That's what
playing at
brought
a
us to
bar.
the coffee.
I'd have a coffee. I'd have a water and a diet pop, like a diet Pepsi. That'd
Yes.
be my. But it just, like I basically feel like when I look back, I feel super lucky. Like things went better than most people, and it's still like you have virtually nothing to show for it. And even if you do make money, then if you want to record an album, even though you're doing it, I'm not doing it on the scale of, for example, I recorded my first record in the same studio that City and Color did in Hamilton called Catherine North Studios.
Amazing.
And his budget was like 100,000 plus. Mine
Yeah.
was like 10 grand or something
Yeah.
like that. But 10 grand is a lot.
That's
and
not zero money.
No. And I'm saying, and I'm super, like, the product I got was great, but like, so any money that you do make, if you wanna then make another record, it just gets regurgitated into the
Yeah.
next project, and so you're never really catching up. You're always kind of spending what you're earning, and
Yeah.
I basically had to make a choice, like, do I want to have a house and a dog? We adopted a dog. I have Billy, who I love, and is like, do I want to live the life of literally living out of my car
Yeah.
to maybe make virtually no money, or do I want to like do jujitsu and be more stable? And the other thing that people don't talk about is, I never did like major tours all across the world and all that kind of stuff. But when I was gone on the road, like, it's depressing, man. Like,
I've heard that.
oh God,
I've heard
it's
that.
like, it's constant driving. You're sleeping, but you're in the car all the time. You're eating, even if you're eating well, it's not that great. You're not really exercising. You're playing to a crowd of people. Some nights it's great. Some nights it's terrible. Like, people don't like it. Some days you feel amazing. The next day it's like you feel super alone. And it was just, I realized that it wasn't good for me mentally.
Yeah.
And so combine that with the money, and I like routine. I'm a boring ass guy. I could do the same thing every day. Like, I could wake up, get my 14-hour coffee, walk my dog, go to jiu-jitsu, come home, relax,
Just
do
do it
video.
again.
Like, I
Yeah.
could literally rinse and repeat. And
Yeah.
so for me, some people are better at being on the road, but it makes sense to me doing it. I understand why people become drug addicts and alcoholics, and
Yeah.
because it's just not a natural way to live. I mean, some people love it, but I don't. Like, I used to look at people even like, City and Color and be like, wow, that'd be awesome. And I'm sure it is. Don't get me wrong. I'm sure it's amazing at times, but there's a price that he's paying for that kind of stuff.
Of course.
And
Absolutely.
I don't think people realize that. And I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you that.
Yeah.
Like, so, and that's a guy that's super gifted, like
Yeah.
beyond talented. And even he's not a bajillionaire. Like, that guy works his ass off. So it's a really double-edged sword pursuing those sorts of things,
Yeah.
Any content
It
creation. is difficult.
literally takes from you, And
It
you have
does.
yeah. So you don't still write music, do you, or?
I do. I still, like, I go through phases like I do with most things, but I started to record a bunch of new songs, and I've kind of stopped and started a couple times.
Cool.
I don't really know why, but things just kind of got in the way. And to be honest, I have tunnel vision on things, so it's hard for me to, if I'm doing music, I'm doing music, if I'm doing like jujitsu, I'm pretty all in on that.
Yeah.
And so, to be honest, I was, and I struggle with depression a lot, and my energy is not good. Like, it's hard for me to train the way I want to, because it really, like, and so I can't do everything. Like I can't go to train and then come home and do it done at music. Like I'm
Yeah, of
done.
course.
Like if I
That's
train, I've got nothing. Like that's my whole day, and so it's sad, but it's the reality. So it's like I was so focused on
I don't think
trying to
that's
get
sad.
no, but I was focused on like competing and trying to get
Yeah.
better as an instructor and learn and
Yeah.
putting my body through a lot. It's just hard for me to have one foot in, one foot out. That's just
Yeah.
kind of the way I am.
It's pretty like I don't know. I think that's pretty reasonable. I think, speaking back to your mental health to the mental health stuff we were talking about earlier, there's this narrative that people have to be grinding in Western culture. Like it's kind of
Oh
like ties
yeah,
into the
yeah.
American dream, right? Like, the American dream being like you can do whatever you want if you put your mind to it. And
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
realize you actually can't. Like it's not realistic. Like sometimes you just can't. Like I can't play basketball like LeBron James if I wanted to, for example. Like that's
You just have
forever.
to believe, Kyle.
Yes, it just have to. But it's okay if you don't have your dream as long as you're
Yeah,
working really, really, really hard and grinding constantly. And I'm like, that's not good either. Like
yeah.
like working like 40, 50. I mean, 40 hours is pretty reasonable, but like it's also that's still like that's a lot of your time. Working these endless work weeks and like just being on this grind and stuff is it's soul crushing. And that's
Yeah.
we're I feel like we got to be meant for more than that. Like just like like 8 like 9 to 5, go do like go to the gym, eat food, and go to sleep and stuff like that. It's like that I wouldn't discredit you or say like, oh, you're not go doing your video editing after that, you're not working on your music. Like who the fuck has energy to do all that stuff? That's impossible. And then like
Well, I
you have your
think,
2 days off a week and you're fucking drained.
dude, I couldn't agree more. I feel like we've been kind of, I don't want to say brainwashed, but there's this
I would.
narrative that
Yeah.
whoever's busiest wins, and if you're not
Yes.
busy, you're a lazy piece of shit. And go 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 go, and it's like I think we think that I think we feel like happiness is getting stuff, or
Hmm.
and it's in a way
Being
happiness
busy.
kind of comes from having less, I think, and being a little bit more present in what you have. Like I don't know. I have like an old house, a small house. It's not that big,
Yeah.
you know. And it's like I have friends that are all buying these brand new houses, and they have all this space, and they're paying way more money. And
More money, no
it's
more
like, but
problems.
I'd rather have less stuff and more free time and
Of
more
course.
freedom.
Yeah.
Because to me, the more that's going on, the more stressed out I feel. I don't want to be juggling 10 things. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to put down people that want to be busy. It's
No, no,
just,
no.
but I do think people get so consumed in filling all their free time that they're missing the point. Like I don't think a lot of people are comfortable being sitting alone and being quiet with themselves.
It's
What isn't
important.
there? Isn't there a quote that says all man's problems can be or come down to the fact that they can't sit alone with their own thoughts or something like that? I don't
Yeah,
know what that.
I was talking to a buddy a little bit about that today, actually, earlier. How important it is, even as couples and stuff. Like, how important it is to take time away from your
Yeah.
partner at times. Like, you can have like a great, fulfilling like 2 days with your partner where you're spending time in that love. You're cuddling, making love, doing all these great things and stuff, and like going on dates and good stuff. But you have to know how to exist as your own person and take time for solitude, either doing things you like or just spending time with your thoughts and practicing mindfulness. Our growth and stuff is very like obviously we're social beings, as we've mentioned and established. It's built outward and stuff, and we bounce off ideas. We do this right now, we're able to grow from that. But if you never take time to spend with yourself and reflect on your own ideas and your own thoughts and your own insecurities and neuroses and stuff like that, you're not really growing inwardly. You need to have both. You need to exist. We're social. We must exist with each other and stuff. But you also need to know how to spend time in solitude and spend time in quiet and be okay with, you know, your own brain and your own things. If you're not taking time to rest, yeah, I think the grind culture is. I mean, I'm not going to say it's outright toxic, but I think it breeds toxicity. I
Oh, for
understand that some
sure. I
people
think it
like to be
can.
busy, and it's maybe you just feel better being busy. But if you're
I
missing
think
out
it's
on
a
things,
coping mechanism to some
yeah,
degree. I think it's, but I think it's interesting though. I would say that as our, it seems that the more our desire to be busy keeps going up and up and up and up, it seems like we're less and less happy though. I
yeah,
wouldn't say that because I almost feel like we think that if
yes,
we
yeah,
get the whatever the next thing is, the next trip, the next night out, like that'll make us happy. But it's sort of like you're just on a treadmill. Like I think if you can't learn to be content or happy with things right now,
Yeah.
the next thing is never going to change it. It'll give you kind of like a quick hit of
Yeah.
happiness, but that's going to disappear because you're going to come right back to the
Yeah.
ground where you are right now. And
Oh yeah.
I don't know, and that's been an issue for me. Like I've dated people that like, I'm just like, look, man, like I don't want to live my life
Yeah.
like
Exactly.
that.
Yeah.
And a lot of girls get upset and they're kind of like, because they want like, I'm not opposed to doing a lot of stuff, but I'm not the kind of I don't want to plan every minute of my day or my week.
Of
I just
course.
don't,
Yeah.
and I live kind of a weird lifestyle. Like I stay up late, I sleep late, but
Yeah.
that I just do what works for me.
Of
And
course.
it is an issue because I don't meet a lot of people that have like what I would say is more of a healthier schedule. I think they're just like, it's literally 24/7. They're booked solid. And it's kind of like, hey, if you want to do that, power to you. But
Yeah.
I don't want my life to be like that. Like I like having downtime and I like reflecting and I like thinking about stuff a lot.
Of
And,
course.
so it's a challenge now. I do think it's a bit of a competition as well. I think social media feeds into it.
Yes,
Because,
it absolutely does.
right? Because everybody's taking pictures of the highlights of their day, and it
You
looks
don't
like
see them
everybody's
taking a
living a
shit
great
though.
life.
Yeah.
And so you're sitting on the couch in your underwear going, wow, this person's doing this, and now they're here. And
Yeah.
it makes you feel like you're trying to keep up. You're trying to keep up with what everybody else is doing, I think.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I'm deeply fortunate that my partner, that Julia, we both kind of complement each other well. Like she likes schedules, she likes structures and stuff, and I'm very free form and stuff. But I think we both understand what we can take from each other in that regard. But we're both very big on like, our time together must be quality time. Like if we're
Yeah.
together, let's do something that matters. Let's like, we focus on each other. If we're watching a show, we're doing that, but like we're not trying to spend time on our phones or whatever. Obviously there's space for just
That's a
watching
big
shows.
one, yeah.
There's space for that too. Like obviously there's something to be said
Yep.
about just relaxing and sharing energy with each other. But taking time apart and just being able to be like, okay, you do your thing, I do my thing, you're journaling, I'm, doing whatever, right? So we can come back together and be more ourselves and take that rest. And I'm fortunate that she's helped me a lot realize that stuff. And yeah, it's good.
No, that's great. I think complimenting each other is great. I don't think you need to be the same person. But I do think that sort of opposites kind of complement each other
Yeah.
because, sometimes you meet people that get you to do more things than you wouldn't on your own. And sometimes you get people that are super busy and you learn to help them kind of chill out and
Exactly.
reflect a little bit more too. So
Yeah.
I think like any relationship, it's good to find that balance. And that's awesome. I mean, the phone thing is just so intrusive though, eh?
Yeah,
Like,
of course.
holy jeez.
I
Like I
tried.
found that. No, go ahead.
I was just saying, whenever I'm with my friends, like I always try to like put phone face down and stuff. Or if I'm
Yeah.
talking to Julia, I'm like, okay, phone's away, face down. Like maybe I'll like take a quick look. Okay, if family's trying to reach me, no, okay, this is fine. I don't like I'm not needed, right? But other than that, like you're spending time with your friends and like they're just, it's just yeah, it's no
Well,
people.
I find that like it's so funny because I have a cottage. Well, I'm sorry, we used to have it. We sold it, but
Rip.
I remember we went up one of the last times, and I have some cousins that are all kind of in their early 30s now, late 20s,
Yeah.
and we couldn't get reception up there, because when I look back at my childhood when we were up at the cottage every summer, and man, it was the best time
Yeah.
because we were just like super, we actually had to like interact with each other to entertain ourselves, and we didn't know what the hell was going on all over the world 24/7.
Yeah.
And I remember we went up to the cottage once and we didn't have near the end there, and my cousins, we didn't have reception. And so we couldn't be on our phones, but it was like we chatted more. Like I felt like I got to know them more in like 1 hour than I did in the last 6 months because we were just so connected more.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's like that in friendships and relationships. We're just so distracted by these things all the time. And I'm guilty of it myself. Like
Yeah.
I'm probably one of the worst ones. Like I just have this like, I gotta look, and it's so stupid. Like there's never anything that important on it. But
We like to stay too
I don't
busy
think
and
we
forget
realize
to be
how
in the moment.
intrusive and how much of a barrier it is to kind of closeness and community.
That's so
and
true. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like,
Well, it's like, yeah, people say like, be in the moment, and that means quite literally be in
yeah,
the moment.
put
Like, and
your
don't
phone away,
like,
yeah.
when it's like you watch Game of Thrones, right?
I actually haven't seen it.
Okay, well, whatever. There's like a scene in season one where like the sword trainer's trying to train. Like, I'll watch the first four seasons. Everything after that, like, it starts going downhill. And by the second last
I heard
season,
the last.
the
I heard
last
the last.
season's a fucking dumpster fire. The second last season is like a good indication that things are gonna go bad. Season five got shoddy. Season six was okay. But the first four seasons are like the finest television you can find. Just watch the first four seasons and make up your own fucking ending. Uh, and
Sounds good.
maybe watch five and six. I don't know. It just gets a little loopy when they start trying to write their own shit. The sword trainer's trying to like fucking teach like Arya. She's like the young girl that she's like a kind of a tomboy archetype character, and she wants to learn how to sword fight. And she's like really bothered by shit. And he's like, "You're with your trouble right now. You must be here," kind of thing, right? And people have so many things right now they can be with, and other places they can like distract themselves. Like you have your phone. People forget like you have all these issues going on in the world, right? Or
Yep.
we're glued to our devices, but never spending time like in the moment. And that's one to dial back to jiu-jitsu. It's such a meditative experience. Like you like the concept of mindfulness, right?
Yeah.
Being
That's such a good point.
doing some when you're doing something is to be focusing on that. So what I love about that is like whatever I'm coming in with that day on the mats, while I'm rolling, I'm not thinking about it. I'm not thinking about like the bad day at work, or maybe a disagreement with my girlfriend, or I'm not thinking about like my buddy pissing me off the other day or something like that. I'm there on the mats. Now you might remember that after, but the time of mindfulness is such a great way, like, and jiu-jitsu, because you really do have to pay attention. If you're not paying attention, like you're probably going to get submitted, or you're going to have a bad time.
Yeah.
But it does have a natural way of just like you're here. um, and then when you come back, you feel better. You feel because you've spent time doing something very meditative. You've been able to focus and truly be in the moment. Luckily, it forces you to do that, but it's so gratifying, if you're out in nature or just doing like having a talk with your friend. Leave your phone at home or put your phone in your pocket and just say that you're not going to check it unless like it's a fucking emergency or something, or just be there. Because life is short, and you want to try to appreciate the people around you and the moments around you. Because yeah, if you're always looking at like something through a phone screen, or just worrying about the things that all the other things you have going on, you miss out on so much.
That's a good point. I never really thought about it, I guess, in those terms too, of being like, you really are kind of in the moment with jujitsu because you
Yeah,
you have to be,
you
or you're gonna
have
get
to be.
strangled. You
Yeah,
know, and that's a
yeah,
piece of it. I think that
yeah,
that because so many people talk about jujitsu as it like saves their lives and it's
yeah.
changed their lives, and so I don't think people that don't do it get it because they think it's just a sport and you're just rolling
It's
around.
like, why
But
do you try to kill each other? That sounds
there's
terrible.
so
You try to
many
choke each
aspects
other
to
for
it, right?
fun?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, exactly.
yeah. Trying to explain it to customers at work, like old ladies, like, oh my
Is it like
god.
karate? Is
Yeah,
it like karate?
sort of, not
Yes.
really. No,
Yes.
sure, whatever. Floor karate.
I always say
Um,
it's like wrestling because that
yeah,
sounds
that's what
more
I tell
tough.
people. I tell people it's like wrestling, but we can choke each other, basically, without
And then I
going into too
only
much
show them
detail.
no gi matches. I don't show them
Yeah,
gi matches
yeah, that's fucking boring.
where they're double guard pulling.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
Oh.
Kidding
Yeah,
all you guard
yeah.
pullers out there.
Well, where's Andy?
Where's Andy? Yeah, I feel
Yeah.
like Andy's ears are burning right now.
Yeah. Oh, I love Andy. Great guy. I haven't seen him in a while. Shit. I haven't seen anyone in a
I
while though.
know.
Fuck. It's hard to.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of you guys in a
Yeah.
while. So
Yeah.
I
What are you
don't
gonna
know,
do?
man.
Hmm.
The
But
old Andy.
yeah. What time is it? Oh, it's just shy of midnight. Oh, we can probably call it there. We've had a really good
Yeah,
talk.
that's not bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like that was fun, man. Yeah, it's
Paul, it was
cr-
fantastic having you
s-
on.
strange times. It's good to chat about it with somebody else,
To say
like
the
have a
least, it's
different
been
perspective.
strange times, but I deeply appreciate your time, your
Yeah, man.
intellect, and yeah, your patience. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, Paul.
Oh, my pleasure, man.
Yeah.
Anytime. It's
Yeah.
great to chat. So
Yeah.
thanks for having me.
We'll talk again
Um,
soon. Yeah.
yeah, we will for sure, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much, brother. Have a great night, okay?
Yep, you too, man.
Cheers. There. All right, one sec. Da. Guys, if you've been listening, oh wait, one sec. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm
Can you
just
hear
doing
me?
my sound off, so yeah. No,
Yeah.
cheers. All right, have a great night, brother. Peace.
All right, you too,
Easy.
man. Thanks.
Later. That was hilarious. All right, guys, if you've been listening, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the podcast today, and have a fantastic night, all right? Cheers.